Afternoon, everybody. This is Matt Webster again, back with my Christian Journey series. Today, I wanted to go over something kind of a special thing where I acknowledge some of the people in my life, and I feel like I've been called to do this more recently, and it was something that initially I didn't understand why, and I kind of understand why I couldn't make this particular video right away now, knowing that. Part of it was is that I didn't have all the pieces of information that I would need, and I needed to sit down and take the time to actually look at everything. And first thing I want to do is thank my friend Trace for kind of giving me the missing piece to the puzzle. This is one of the reasons why they say fellowship is so important. And like, even though I don't have a church, I still very much so consider my friends my fellowship, especially those who are close to God and those who are coming closer to God. Because sometimes like they get little small pieces of the puzzle that you don't get, and it helps you build that larger puzzle piece. Um, One of the major things I found out from him was something that popped up one day. So there's this anime that I've mentioned before. It was one of my earlier videos. There's a character called Sanji. The anime is called One Piece. Now, I've particularly seen myself as being kind of like a Sanji kind of guy. Um, but I'm starting to acknowledge the fact that maybe the way I see myself isn't the way everyone else is going to see me. And even so, having said that, that maybe there are smaller parts of me that still feel like that character, but acknowledging that some of my friends see me in a different way. And this character is also from One Piece, and this is actually helping me build something that I didn't initially realize I was trying to build. I've always been someone who likes to gather people who have different talents together and put together something special. I never really thought much into that with my own personal life, and realized that maybe one day that I could be doing that exact thing. Um, One of the big points of One Piece that's really fun, that the fans really love, and Etrode is a genius. If you haven't read or watched the show, I highly recommend it. The manga is fantastic. The storytelling, there's so many YouTube channels you can go visit. There's a live action on Netflix. Really is just a great show, and I kind of want to think that maybe Eiichiro Oda might secretly be Christian without even realizing it, or maybe being led by God in a way, because it's really funny when you look at the premise of the show, which is building, um, friendship, love, things like that. They're all things that are elements within the show. Now, getting to the point of where I need to acknowledge some people, the first thing I want to do is acknowledge my friend Trace. He was saying something the other day about the way I look at people and the way I view things, and it kind of correlated to like how I put things together. And his exact thing was saying that I'm very magnetic and I pull people in and I draw people close together, which is something that the main character of One Piece does, Luffy. Now, part of me didn't want to go this route simply because of the fact that I get a lot of people that claim I have main character syndrome and stuff like that. And here's the thing with that. For the people who think that, I do apologize for the fact that you feel that way, and maybe there's something in your own life that you're not happy about. I simply point out what others point out to me. And if you don't like that, I do apologize, but it's something you'll have to come to terms with God on your own. I'm not here to please you, and I'm not here to bow down to making you feel better about yourself. Having said that, I personally have never felt like Luffy, at least not until recently. And even then, I'm not really sure if I still relate too well to this character, but I'm going to try to give it a shot here with this. One of the things Luffy's very good at doing is drawing people to him, rallying people, gathering allies. Something that has been recently pointed out in my own life is something I do very well, is that I tend to bring people together, very unique people with different talents and whatever, and we all have our own set of skills and stuff, but I love being around all these people together, because when you put this kind of work into something and this kind of group of people together, this even shows in like when I was trying to build something for like the idea of having a mayor's cabinet for if I was going to run for a political office. You look for people with different unique skills outside of yours. Like, my skills is that I'm very good at getting everyone together and talking about things and kind of leading the conversation. However, if I needed medical advice and whatnot, I have very limited knowledge on that. So I would need to find a doctor. This is something that Luffy in the show does. Each one of his crewmates has a very specific role on the ship. Um, and it was something as I was going through this after he had mentioned it, my friend Trace, that realizing that there are these people in my life that have all these unique talents and bringing them together for some greater purpose may actually be in fact what God has been trying to highlight to me for a long time and what I'm supposed to do. And the reason why I say this is there's a lot of things that have come up that could correlate to Luffy, that even correlate to other characters that I've talked about. In fact, one of the things I've noticed with a lot of the characters on my list now isn't just that they're good at leadership skills, they're very good at drawing other people in with the kind of person that they are. And it goes back to something that I was told a while back too. I was compared to David from the Bible, who defeats Goliath. And sometimes I thought that was too high praise, and because it's a big praise. People do not realize how big that praise is. David is one of the few people in the Bible, other than Jesus, that is considered closest to God's heart. Now, the reason why I say this is because when you start resembling that inner feeling of God's heart, His love, His compassion, and the way you praise and bring joy and all that, a lot of that does draw people in. It is magnetic. So it's kind of cool. One of the biggest characters on my list that this correlates to too, and I wanted to bring this up, because this title is something that both Luffy and this character have in common, which is Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. They were unifiers. They unify people. Aragorn's greatest accomplishment wasn't being king. It was the fact that he was able to unify all the men together for one last stand against the darkness, completely being outnumbered. And he brought everyone together and then gives this, in the movie, he gives this rallying speech that just, it inspires everyone despite the fact that they very well know that they could die. And I think this generation of men needs that. But I think this generation of people needs that. We need someone who isn't just rallying, so they're speaking from here. And when you speak from your heart, it tends to push away people that aren't wanting to be of God. And some people will initially be pulled away and then brought back. I'm seeing this unfold in my own life with certain people. And I think I needed to just stop doubting what God's plan was for me. And like now seeing it, I am 100% convinced that I am someone that's meant to rally people, bring people in, and be the leading force of the conversation. Because God has given me that authority for some weird reason. Well, maybe it's not a weird reason. It's probably because it goes back to the thing with the heart. If I really do represent David's heart, which I'm starting to believe that I do, it's that I truly want good for all people. And the biggest thing I desire is freedom. Now, going back to the Luffy thing, Luffy's biggest dream, which is another underlying thing of One Piece, his dreams, is believed to be absolute freedom. And kind of correlating something else that was told to me recently with Luffy, and the reason why all this is starting to add up and make sense in my own life, kind of give you some examples of how God really works. I had a coworker who I've told all my random stories with love life experiences and bad whatever things that have happened, just all sorts of different events that have kind of would knock most people down and make them not want to ever get back up. This will also correlate to what someone in my church had told me, which relates back to Luffy. So I got told I bounce back a lot. Luffy's made of rubber. Rubber bounces. One of my people at church had told me that I was a rubber band. You get pulled, stretch, pulled, stretch. Well, rubber stretches and bends and bounces back, much like Luffy. Now, one of my closest friends, she had described me as being this character from another anime called Escanor. In this show, I won't go over too much of it because I've mentioned his character I think before, but his power is called Sunshine. Now, the reason why this correlates into this is Luffy's character develops these powers called the Sun God Nika powers. So it's kind of like an ability that he's given, and God radiates the sun. Um, and the reason why all this is so important is that I remember asking God a while back, I wanted to fight the devil directly for my friends. And for a long time, I've thought that might have been a mistake. And I think part of that came down to a fear thing, because I was like, man, how can I go against the devil? I've been having people tell me that we shouldn't ever ask to oppose the devil directly. That the devil's this powerful being that we need to whatever. And I disagree with those people. I want to make that clear now. The reason why I disagree with them is that if you really do believe in Jesus and you have a lot of faith, and you have faith in Jesus, then yes, fighting the devil directly might seem like a bad idea, but if you've got Jesus on your side and you're fighting the devil directly with Jesus at your side, there's no way you're going to lose. It might take time. He might need to develop you. He might need to build you up in a way that, is necessary to combat the devil. And this is something that's actually happening in the One Piece series, funny enough, which I thought was kind of funny. Recently in the manga, they're fighting this character that's known to be like the first devil, or it's being assumed that he's the first devil. And it's kind of cool because you got someone with the power of the sun god, who, by the way, one of the biggest things that's really cool about this character with this power is that they call him Joy Boy, as another name for him, and he brings laughter about the world, and he brings what they're calling the dawn. Well, I thought about this a lot recently, and I think this is kind of a funny thing to think about, and I think it's almost hilarious. When you can laugh at everywhere you've been and all the mistakes you've made, and the fact that you keep getting back up when it doesn't make sense to most people, and you can smile through that, you're already beating the devil in a way that the devil absolutely despises. In fact, I think he might secretly despise this the most, because he's thinking about how happy you as a human being can be, and that disgusts him, because the devil hates humanity, and the devil has always thought that we were lesser. And God made us in his image, and if that's the truth, like we believe it is as Christians, then what we need to accept is that laughing at the devil is the biggest insult to the devil. And it's not to say, this is a bad thing as a Christian, because I do not believe that. I actually believe this is a good thing as a Christian. When you can laugh in the face of the enemy, it will send him fleeing, because at that point you're no longer controlled by all the things and lies that he's telling you. Now, having said that, I'm obviously not without sin. I'm not perfect, and I don't pretend to be. But the thing is God is over here telling me it's okay, because not that the sins themselves are okay, but I'm okay, because I've chosen to go with him despite all of my failures and whatnot. I have a lot of friends who need to hear this, because one, when you're trying to build yourself something like this anime, you build a crew, you build yourself up, and you build other people around you up, you are in fact doing God's work, and it is something that should bring you immense amounts of joy. I even had this conversation with my mother recently, that I don't really think it's prideful to be proud of the things you can do with God and how you're doing them, and to be able to laugh and build things with other people, I think are some of the most godly things you can do. They're some of the most Christianly things you can do. And whilst we may not be completely good, there is goodness within us as long as we have God in our lives. Now, again, how all this relates to the show, a lot of this was making me realize that the people around me, there was messages hidden in names, things like that, and it kind of really genuinely makes me believe that these people are meant to be in my life. In fact, I think these people were specifically appointed to my life at the right times when I needed them the most, and was going to slowly reach out to them and pull them together for this exact purpose that's coming. I don't know exactly what it is. However, I do know that I'm trusting God's plan at this point, regardless of what it is. And to build something like this with the people in my life, kind of like how we built a crew, God's plan is to build something absolutely incredible out of this. So I want to acknowledge the other people on this list. Some people that absolutely should be acknowledged. I'm not going to give their roles and stuff away just because that's for them and me to know. But these people really are going to be part of my group and people in my life that are going to help make a difference in this world. So I've already mentioned Trace, really good friend. Really glad you pointed this stuff out to me. In fact, I'm really happy that you brought up Luffy at such a weird time in my life. Michaela, Gabe, Michael, Carlo, Avery, Josh, Izzy, Jerry, and my brother Thomas. These people are all people that I have no doubt there's something God has plans for you all, specifically in my life and how we're going to build things together. If this guy scares any of you, I understand that. Just know that God is on your side and I'm with you too. And I really do genuinely believe that all of you are intended to help build something better with this future. I think the future could be in our hands, and I think together our group can come up with something incredible. Now, I'm not saying that everything's going to be just us and God. There will be other groups out there that do the same thing, and they'll be building people up and building things. But I think our group is going to have something very special planned for the future. Anyways, I just wanted to say thank you guys again, the acknowledgement of all my friends, love all of you dearly, and I'll see you guys next time.